Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. Again, you can go to my website, tolltutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Tolltutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Tolltutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, and Google+, and also on Periscope at TotalTutor. And this week, I have another co-host. I've had Jared. I've had some other very interesting people, but I have to bring back the St. Agnes Roots, one of my favorite places to teach all time. I mean, the experiences I had with Patsy Caulfield and the staff, Michelle Peduto, all those things. So I'm excited to welcome back to the program WPIL Hall of Famer, which she tells me, the team was. No, she doesn't want the accolades. Coach Karen Hall, UNLV and everything. And you have some really interesting local Pittsburgh guests. And when I saw your special on QED and I saw one of my favorites, I said, you have to get him to the studio. So you said, is there a chance you can? And you did. So tell who our guest is today.
Well, we have an awesome special guest, my friend from a long time, Neil's new best friend, because he's is really advocate of Darrell Porter, University of Pittsburgh star, and we're going to get into a whole other accolades about Darrell and where he's come from, how it transformed him, and what he's doing today. And before we get started, though, Neil, I got to congratulate you on your expansion. I mean, last we met, we were in a radio station with headsets on. Now we're in front of cameras, and you're nationwide, syndication. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And it's nice, especially when you're interviewing a lot of celebrities, and you say to yourself, holy cow. Right. I mean, I've had 6 NFL Hall of Famers, 5 NBA Hall of Famers, numerous players in different sports and things like that. So it's just amazing. And the number of people I've interviewed in 6 years, the anniversary will be December 6th that I started out. So it's just, Darrell, I ended up having guests on, starting at WRCT Studios, 88.3 in Carnegie Mellon, and Coach Hall is one of my first guests. Mm-hmm. So I started it just as an education show, and it's expanded to so many things.
So, Darrell, we're excited to have you here. As Neil mentioned, when we were going to do this together, you got to get Darrell Porter on. So I said, I got him. And, we worked together. But we're going to go back. We're going to take you back a little bit. Hill District resident, you grew up. We met in different recreation centers playing basketball. If people don't know, you're a 3-sport athlete, but we're going to talk about a little bit about basketball first. So can you talk about, say, your humble beginnings? How did basketball begin to shape you as a youngster?
Well, basically, basketball gave me an opportunity to stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I kind of liked the game and put a lot of time into it. And back then, you didn't have the computer games and everything, so you had a ball and you go to the court.
Yeah.
And a couple older guys told me, you're pretty good. And from there, excuse me, the rest is history. I played in all the city leagues and the OSNAM leagues and the city park recs and gained experience enough to get a college scholarship. Mm-hmm.
So, Darrell, your experience on the playgrounds, how important was that in helping you play against guys older than you, things like that? Because the playgrounds are where legends are made in so many ways. And you had to kind of become a playground legend in a way, for sure, to compete in the highest level of the Big East at that time. So, I mean, people will understand that the Big East was the best basketball conference in the world at that time. So, and not always Pittsburgh. Some Pittsburgh guys went on to the major Division I, but you knew you were pretty good, but you had to play against the best competition, didn't you?
Well, part of playing on the playgrounds, you play against older guys.
Yeah.
At first, you don't get picked up and you're just watching.
Exactly.
And then if they need one, they might say, hey, come on over here, little guy.
Yeah.
Right.
And then once you prove your value, then you start getting picked up. And the competition against the older guys was great because, number one, they're stronger, faster, but they gave you the best advice, and it helped develop my IQ and develop me as a player at a rapid rate.
So, we grew up on the playground. Did you have any guys that you looked up to? I mean, you're a young kid. Like, who did you look up? Because there were tons of great players back then.
Well, my uncle played on the Shinley teams, so Ricky Coleman and Jeep Kelly and all those guys. And he told me, you have to put that much work in to get as good as those guys. And everybody thinks they're going to be as good as those guys when they're younger.
Right.
But to reach those levels and be able to get a scholarship, all the hard work paid off.
Yeah, so you got your local guys, because most of us, we look to the pros, right? But you had local guys right here that you could look up to. Did you go out on the course trying to do what they did, practice that jump shot, the reverse dribble? I mean, what impact did they have on you as a player and mentally? You said they taught you the lay of the land.
Well, I'll tell you what, playing against the older guys, we kind of would steal a couple of their moves if it worked for them. So I was able to combine some of the moves that Puffy Kennedy did, and G. Kelly, and some of the other guys that came before me, and then it made my game a total game.
Exactly.
So I was able to play every position. I was able to handle the ball at a tall height, and it gave me an opportunity to get to college and play at that top level because I was prototype 6'4", 200 pounds, a guard. And usually if you're 6'4", you're a big guy in high school. But I was able to be a guard.
Exactly. And you playing against those guys and stuff, to stay on the court, on the playgrounds, you had to win.
You had to win.
Yeah.
So they want you to first pick you to run with that team, but you want to stay on that court. So, for example, playing in the Hill or on the playgrounds at Reisenstein, you wanted to stay on that court.
You had to stay on the court because if you lost, it was maybe another hour.
Yeah, exactly. An hour and a half.
Exactly.
And they would play till 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night.
When the lights went out.
Exactly.
So it really gave me an opportunity to stay out of trouble. It gave me something positive to do. And really, growing up in the Hill District, I didn't know that it was not one of the better neighborhoods because all the things I did were positive. So
you have you're living in the Hill, and then so between beginning high school and that summer beginning high school, you had Ozanam. Right. So you play Ozanam, and then you end up at Perry. Put those two together during this time.
Well, I was part of the Ozanam Clinic, and
what's the Ozanam Clinic?
The Ozanam Clinic is development, and you work on skills. And Coach Franklin from Perry was the guy who ran the clinic at the time when I was coming up. And just building a relationship with somebody who pushed you, who told you were capable of doing some things. And before you know it, 3-4 years later, he went from being assistant coach at Brashear to the head coach at Perry, and I followed him.
Okay.
So those relationships that you build and the trust that you build with people who giving their time and telling you the proper way to do things, it built a relationship for a lifetime.
So he became a mentor. Would you say he became a mentor for you
Big time
at that
mentor.
time?
Big time mentor, and actually he was a role model. He was educated. He preached, get your schoolwork done, and then he also told you about there's players all over the country. So if you're the best player in Pittsburgh, that means nothing. You're competing against the whole world. So with him giving you that insight, and then he played in college, you knew what he was saying was the right things.
And playing in high school at Perry, did you play in AAU leagues and teams and stuff? You said Ozanam was one of them, and you traveled kind of like Coach Hall did, right?
Yes. Well, Ozanam was the only AAU program at that time.
Really? Okay.
So everybody from Western PA tried out for the Ozanam team, and I was lucky enough to make the Ozanam team.
He's being modest. He was a talented player.
I was a talented player, but you're competing against guys older than you because back then AAU was only on odd numbers for the guys.
Right.
So it was 15 under, 17 under, 13 under. So when you're 12, you're playing against older guys.
Right.
When you move up to 15 under, you're 14, you're playing against older guys.
Exactly.
So it was real competitive. And those battles at Reisenstein kind of defined you because if you could compete there, you could compete anywhere.
Yes.
That improved my game for being this uncoordinated big guy. Then you go and play against these guys, and then they say, hey, big guy, and the game's different. It's just completely different. You basically are going to get fouled all the time. You're going to have to work hard to get the shot, and you're going to have people that, you know what, you can't be a gunner. You got to be unselfish and want to win and stay on the court.
Well, that was one of my best qualities is being unselfish and I could get just as much enjoyment off of getting an assist and score.
Exactly.
So I would make the right play. And when I was younger, the older guys liked me because they wanted to shoot all the time, and I would pass.
Yeah. Okay, so you're one of the best players basically in Western Pennsylvania in the City League. You're at Perry. But you also started throwing that football. And then you start hitting some home runs with baseball. So you got basketball, football, and then baseball.
Wow.
Okay, so how are you combining all that with your academics, and then how did basketball emerge as the one that you enjoyed life with?
Well, basically, to stay busy, you played all sports. And maybe in the morning we played baseball, in the afternoon we played football, in the evening we played basketball, or whatever order would be. But those were our entertainment. And you built the craft, and you tried to emulate what you saw on television. So if it was football, we were running the wishbone, or faking the pitch to Tony Dorsett, or you throw the pass that Dan Marino was throwing, and you kind of tried to be a copycat of all the good things.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, my favorite basketball player was Magic Johnson.
Ah, nice.
So I
That's so
tried
smart.
to have my game be real similar to his. So he would throw the nice passes. He was tall, he could dribble. So that showed me that I could be a guard. And, just following some of your favorite players made you into that type of player on the court or the field.
And so basically, you're getting well known in Pittsburgh, and you're playing AAU, traveling all over the country. When do you know that teams are really interested in you for recruiting for basketball?
Well, when we go to the nationals with Ozanam, or the regionals, and we're playing in front of 20, 30 college coaches, and then over here you have David Rivers who's going to Notre Dame, and a couple other players, and the ultimate goal when I was younger was to get in Street and Smith. Okay. If you looked in the book, Street and Smith, that told you if you were good or not.
Okay.
So when I saw my name in Street and Smith, I was like, oh, I'm good. Until you see your name in a publication, you didn't know where you stood. And there was no social media and things like that.
It's amazing what's happening in social media
magazines.
now. It's all social media.
Right.
I mean, these guys aren't trying to use these recruiting things now. They're just trying to get their self out with a free post and post out their highlights. It's crazy now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier to probably get recognized. Back then, I think we more had to earn it.
Exactly.
You had to go to different camps. You had to be a total player.
Exactly.
You had to be coachable. You had to have all these intangibles to be a good player.
You can get discovered very quickly. All right, so when we get back, we're going to continue our conversation with Pitt star Darrell Porter, and Coach Karen Hall is doing awesome, bringing these interesting guests. You're watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Back to the Neil Haley Show on the Toll Education Network, Tolltutor.net for more information. Twitter, Toll Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Toll Tutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, Google+, and also on Periscope at Total Tutor. And I'm with Coach Karen Hall and Darrell Porter. And Coach Karen, I know that you're telling the story of Darrell Porter. And again, now it's time for him to get recruited by schools. So, and you know the story well, right?
I do know a story, but I want Darrell to share. We know where you ended up, but take us from end of high school into recruitment.
Okay, so I'm in high school, and I'm getting recruited heavily in two sports. Like I said, basketball was my first true love. So the interest I was getting in football, everybody else thought, oh, you should play football.
Right.
And I was nice and entertaining it, but in back of my mind, I was like, I'm going to go to school for basketball.
Okay.
So when the college coaches start sending material and asking you to come visit campus, you only get 5 visits.
Okay.
So you want to use your visits to determine what you would like. So one of the schools I decided to go visit was UNLV.
Really?
Sport, yeah.
And part of the reason I wanted to visit UNLV is because Karen played a few years ahead of me.
Oh, my.
And you look up to people who do successful
Well,
things.
thank you.
So she was a point guard. I wanted to be a point guard. She was a leader. I wanted to be a leader. And when I was out there, I probably spent more time with her than with the players because you just want to feel comfortable somewhere. And the first thing she said is, no matter where you go, you better get your education. So for the males, not the females, a lot of people were like, oh, if you go to UNLV, they don't graduate a lot. It's like a lot of negative recruiting. But when you go out there to see the campus and talk to somebody who's there, then you get to see the truth.
Right.
And it was very beautiful, real nice campus. And if it was up to everybody else, I would have probably went to UNLV.
Well, why didn't you?
Well, it was a choice between UNLV, Pitt, Providence, Marquette, and West Virginia. Mm-hmm. But then when you want to stay home,
Right.
and you want your family to come see you play,
They're not going to see you play much.
and you make decisions based on that.
Yeah.
And at the time, UNLV had entirely Pittsburgh staff.
Yeah.
Gergerich was out there.
Yeah.
Keith Starr was out there. Mel Bennett was out there. Cleveland Edwards was out there. So all of my dad's friends from when he was growing up were all in UNLV. So it was almost like
Family.
he's going there. But at the end of the day, Pitt kind of was in the Big East. They were a rising program, and they finally met the criteria or the level that UNLV was on. So it was easier for me to stay home instead of leave to go.
And be a legend in Pittsburgh and know that Pittsburgh was your home and that it continues to be to play at the University of Pittsburgh.
Well, a lot of the things that people don't consider now is, oh, you have a phone bill. If I could stay at home, I won't have a phone bill. Oh, I could go home and get my clothes washed. I could go get a home cooked meal.
Right.
So Calipari kind of used all the things that he tried to reinforce all the things that staying at home would be the beneficial to me.
Oh, wow. So Coach Cal was an assistant at Pitt.
Yeah, he was. He said, do you want to eat at home the food you used to eat, or do you want to go out to like Burger King, give you away? So some of those things play on a 17-year-old kid's thinking, and basically I figured with all the great schools that were recruiting me, I couldn't go wrong nowhere.
So you play with some pretty good players. Can you talk about some of the players you played with, the impact they had on you, and then give us a little bit into your college educational side of it?
Right. Well, first of all, I played with a lot of NBA players. The Big East was the best conference in the world back then, and we had first-round draft picks on our team. We had Charles Smith, Jerome Lang, Demetrius Gordon. I played with Brian Shorter, Bobby Martin, Jason Matthews, Darren Morningstar. Sean Miller, like the list goes on and on. We had a really good team. So some of the battles that we had in pickup games were just as good as playing against the top 10 team in the country.
Right.
So watching those guys go from 2 months ago he was playing with me to 2 months later he's in the NBA on TV making $1 million is a big incentive to work hard on your game.
Right.
And you went ahead, and when you were a freshman, Jerome and Charles were juniors. What were they?
Jerome was a junior. Charles was a senior. But Jerome, he forgot his.
Yeah, so both of them went to the
senior
NBA
year.
that
They
year.
went to the NBA that
So
year.
that was the best team, and that's where you're the team that lost to Vanderbilt, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one of the most Gary Goheen, don't you?
Oh,
Yeah, that's I replay that stuff a lot.
I still replay it
And,
as a version too.
Yeah.
He hit a half court shot at the buzzer to make the game go into overtime, and
That was the
In
best
o-
Pitt
in
team.
o-
That Pitt team that could have gone.
in overtime they outplayed us by being like a little bit smarter. Their big guy fouled out, so we're like,
Yeah.
no more big guy. We're going to go inside
Right.
and inside.
Exactly.
We got too
Exactly.
aggressive, and they wind up winning in overtime. But everybody remembers the shot
Oh,
that goes
Yeah.
in overtime.
Yeah.
We didn't lose on the shot that was made to send it in
yeah.
overtime. We
but
lost in overtime.
that killed it all. But I mean, that team. Sean Miller was
Freshman.
so you guys were the freshman phenoms.
Yep.
You put the two best players, and again, in Jerome and Charles inside, and they were just you guys were I think number 2 in the country at times.
Yeah.
At certain times. And,
Yep. And then Will Purdue was the big player for Vanderbilt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
And right at the end of regulation, he fouled out. So it was like, they don't have their big guy. We're going to just take over and win. But it didn't work out that way.
And but that year, was that a memorable year, freshman year, playing with that team?
That was a memorable year because the first time you go through something, you have your best memories. And
Right.
one of my most treasured moments is I was in the New York Times after we beat Syracuse.
Okay.
And the caption has Pitt freshman Darrell Porter, my hands are up like this,
Yeah.
wins Big East championship. So
Right.
when I was getting recruited, those were some of the things that were told to me, like, don't you want to play for a championship? Don't you want to play on CBS? Don't you want them to call your name out in the starting lineup?
And it all happened when you
and
got
it. And it all happened.
Yeah, it's
Because
wonderful.
Coach Cal had that team, rolling in a way because it was Paul Evans' team, but meaning
Right.
His
that and
recruiter.
Paul Evans came from the Naval Academy, and
Right.
he was, he had David Robinson, so he left right after David Robinson and brought this program back from the
Yeah.
so you were
it
probably
elevated to the top.
You guys
top.
were the beast of the Big East.
We're the beast
oh,
of the East.
Yeah.
but that disappointment even in Big East tournaments. Because that killed you guys that your freshman year Big East tournament.
Yeah,
because-
we lost to Villanova in the semifinals,
yeah.
and they hit a lot of outside shots.
Polanski, I think.
He really had a good game, but some of the players that you didn't think were good on that team were like Doug West
Oh, yeah.
and Presley and some
Oh,
other guys.
wow.
So that team was a really good
So
team.
talk about the whole Big East in general. You're talking about Pitt, but what
Right.
about
I mean,
the other
Georgetown.
every
Georgetown.
team had multiple pros on it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if you go to Villanova, of course they had the team that won the national championship, and then Doug West and those guys. You go to Syracuse, they had Derek Coleman, Ronnie Cycli.
Yeah.
List goes on. Sherman Douglas,
Yes.
Billy Owens.
Yes.
It just goes on. Georgetown had
Oh.
Dikembe and Alonzo.
Oh, yeah.
Boston College had Dana Barrow.
Yes.
Seton Hall had Mark Bryant
Yes.
and the guy from Australia that didn't
Oh,
play
I
in the
remember-
pro,
I remember,
Andrew
yeah.
Gaze.
Oh, yes,
So
yes.
every,
Big East was so strong.
every night was a big time game. You didn't have a night off. Like
that-
Boston College was the night off, but they had Dana Barrow
Right,
as a
right.
first round pick.
And now, who, if you think back, because it's just like yesterday, listening to you, it's just like you're still there. So talk about all that talent, and you had to defend some of these guys.
Oh yeah.
So give us a little bit of that excitement.
Well, I tell you what, I switched on Derek Coleman a couple times, and my whole motto in the playgrounds was you could watch somebody for one possession. So if you could watch them for one possession, you could watch them the whole game.
Okay.
So defense was one of my strong suits. So no matter what the matchup was, if I was watching 5'3" Pookie Whittington from
Yeah.
Seton
Oh,
Hall,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
okay. If I was guarding 6'9" Livingston Chapman from Florida, I was versatile enough, and my mentality was I could guard
Okay.
anybody for one possession.
What's amazing is the time, and Darrell, we'll have to set up a phoner for part 2 of the interview with Coach Hall, because there's so much more to talk about because of, again, what you're doing for Ozanam now.
Yeah.
Where's the best place we can find information on you, Darrell? Where can we go?
We can go to www.ozanamprogram.org, and our website's there. Or you can make a call to 412-389-4305 and get information on what we're doing. We're trying to give this generation of kids what our generation had with Ozanam. So we have after-school program, we have a dinner program, girls basketball program, boys basketball program. We added strength and conditioning. We added SAT prep. So we're doing a lot of different things to help this generation have some success.
Well, fantastic. And Coach Hall, I tell you, how quickly you'll see how quick 26 minutes can go.
Yeah.
But having that conversation and always, with all the major people I've had from Pitt, you always say hail to Pitt, right? Again,
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it exciting about what the football program's doing now?
It's real exciting, and what's more exciting about it is a lot of the kids who played in our Ozanam program
Yes.
are committing to stay home. Parrish Ford, who was one of their latest commits, is a kid who's been in our program for years. So it's nice to see the kids stay home.
Exactly. So hail to Pitt, right?
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.
Executive
I'm not
Director.
Coach Hall was about to say hail to Pitt, but
I can hail to Pitt.
I could do that all day long, and the
2 on 1.
hashtag H2P. That's awesome. That's how Al Narduzzi's got that rolling.
All this
social
room
media,
going
social
on.
media. But we got to get the basketball back.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy about 10th place. So we'll have to see what happens to resurrect the program.
Well, hopefully they'll do a lot better this year. And
Injuries kill them, and different.
if they can stay healthy, I think that they'll be able to compete with everybody. But they're not deep enough now to get 3-4 injuries and still be able to compete.
It's very
real
hard
tough.
for Big East schools to become ACC. It's a different environment, different recruiting, different players to look at. All right, well, again, that was the Neil Haley Show. Take care, guys. And next week, another exciting guest. Take care, everyone.